And yes, this is Read It or Skip It. Welcome everyone to the deep dive. You know the drill by now. We take a deep breath, dive right into our source material, and try to pull out those really surprising bits of knowledge, those aha moments, And today, well, you're in for something different, maybe a bit of a shock, actually. Our source is the pretty detailed summary of a book called Haunting Adeline, a stalker's obsession and a murder mystery. So get ready. This is going to be, well, a wild ride. It's dark, definitely fascinating, and it really messes with your ideas about, like, romance, danger, even justice, maybe. We're going to pull out the most shocking details, talk about leading characters, themes, all that stuff. So, okay, buckle up. Here's my first question for you listening. What happens when the person watching you isn't just scary, but somehow someone you're also kind of drawn to?
That's a perfect way to frame it. It really cuts to the heart of this source material. Because this summary of Hunting Adeline, it leans hard to that dark romance genre, pushing boundaries, asking some really complex ethical questions, psychological ones too, about obsession, consent, vigilante stuff. So our mission today basically is to unpack this really intricate plot, the frankly unsettling character motives that are laid out in the summary. We want to bring some clarity to a story that, deliberately blurs a lot of lines, often in ways that make you kind of squirm.
Okay, let's dive in then. Starting with the main character, Adeline Riley. The summary introduces her right away. She's a best-selling author, maybe mid-20s, and she's just inherited Parsons Manor from her grandmother. But this isn't just like a nice country house. It's run down, super isolated, and her own mom thinks it's haunted. But Adeline, she just moves right in. Super stubborn about it, even when weird stuff starts happening. But here's where it gets really strange. She should be scared, right? Totally freaked out. But the summary says something pretty unsettling about how she reacts to being watched. What did it say about her mindset, about the shadow she feels?
It's really striking, actually. The summary flat out says Adeline is excited by it, excited to be watched by this mysterious shadow. It mentions this almost like perverse enjoyment she gets from it, and she digs her heels in even more about staying there, despite the obvious danger. That immediate reaction from her, it's fascinating, isn't it? Sets up this really unusual dynamic right away. And what's really interesting is the contrast. While Adeline's having this really passive, excited reaction, we also get the shadows perspective. This is Zade Meadows. He's a vigilante, runs a hacking group called Z, and they're all about taking down human traffickers. He apparently moved to the area after seeing this horrific video, a sacrifice linked to a trafficking ring, and it's around then he just happens upon Adeline's book signing. The summary makes it crystal clear. His obsession is instant, intense. He decides right then and there he's going to make her his. So you immediately see this bizarre setup, right? Her passive, almost excited curiosity met by his active, extreme obsession that comes from this really dark place.
The summary basically tells us the relationship starts from coercion and this twisted idea of destiny.
Yeah, wow. And their lives start crashing together in these really creepy ways. So even with this shadow lurking, Adeline tries to, live normally. She meets up with her best friend, Daya. Sounds like a great friend, supportive, smart, loyal, the whole package. Daya actually sets Adeline up with an old boyfriend, Grayson. Adeline invites him over to Parsons Manor, and surprise, surprise, things start getting cozy, but then genuinely creepy noises interrupt them. Ghastly noises, the summary says. Addie asks Grayson to leave, and he responds like a toddler, punches a hole right in her wall.
Peak maturity, right?
Totally. But here's the weird twist, the darkly funny bit. Because he threw a tantrum and punched the wall, Adeline finds something hidden inside. Her great-grandmother Gigi's journals.
And Zade fits right into this. He was the interruption. He took credit for scaring Grayson off, basically. And he leaves his calling card, right? A note in a single red rose, that classic chilling I'm always watching message. But then, almost immediately, the summary shows us Zade's other side, his good Samaritan side, as the source puts it. He breaks into a secret house Raptors using, takes him out, saves the girls trapped there, like objectively heroic stuff, right? Fighting real evil. So you get this immediate parallel. Gigi's journals hinting at some past mystery, and Zade being both this terrifying stalker and a rescuer. It raises that huge question the summary seemed to lean into. How do we reconcile these two sides? It almost suggests that for Zade, the stalking, the control over Adeline, it's somehow justified or balanced out by his bigger mission. It creates this really uncomfortable moral gray zone.
It's a massive question, definitely. And things just keep getting more intense. Adeline actually tries reporting the stalker to the police, multiple times. But, nothing happens. Classic. So maybe to just get away from it all, she goes clubbing with Daya. And there she meets Archibald Talavera. Turns out he's part of some elite mafia group. Uh-oh. Anyway, things escalate between Addie and Arch back at her place, but guess what? Interrupted again, this time by a loud knock at the door. Arch, being the tough mafia guy, goes out into the woods to check it out. And, well, let's just say he doesn't come back in one piece.
Yeah, the aftermath is brutal. The summary lays it out starkly. The next morning, Adeline gets a package. It's Arch's dismembered hand, presented as a present, quote-unquote, for letting him touch her. It's this immediate violent message. Zade is possessive, dangerously so. Anyone else gets near her, bad things happen. But here's another one of those provocative points the summary makes. Despite being terrified, Addie secretly enjoys his attention. That specific phrase is used. It's really critical, I think. It points towards this exploration of maybe Stockholm Syndrome, or just a really warped kind of validation she gets from this extreme, terrifying focus on her. The summary implies this complex psychological pull where the danger itself starts to become part of the fascination. It blurs that line between terror and this really dark connection.
That's one of those details that really makes you pause, doesn't it? Even if it's super uncomfortable to think about. Meanwhile, Adeline's getting deeper into Gigi's journals, and she starts seeing parallels, realizing Gigi also had a stalker, and Gigi was murdered brutally in that same house. So Adeline starts thinking Gigi's stalker must have killed her, and she gets this idea. Turn her own situation into a murder mystery. Solve Gigi's cold case to maybe, just maybe, save herself and get this twist. Daya, the best friend, she's also a hacker, and she works for a company called Zade. Yep, that's Zade's organization, though Addie doesn't know it yet. So Daya helps Addie set up cameras all over the house to try and catch this guy. Addie also finds Gigi's stalker's name, and apparently she's even guided by some kind of apparition of Gigi. It's getting supernatural now, too.
It all leads up to what the summary calls possibly one of the most, if not the most, disturbing moments. Zade and Adeline's first actual face-to-face encounter. It explicitly mentions it involves a weapon and Addie's nether region. It doesn't hold back on the description. And Adeline's reaction is key again. She feels violated and disgusting with herself for not only allowing it to happen, but for physically enjoying it. That contradiction, violation, and pleasure seems absolutely central. The summary presents this as her core conflict. Then, right after, Max shows up. That's Arch's cousin, looking for answers about the hand. Then there's this second intimate encounter between Zade and Addie. The summary notes, no weapon involved this time, just tongue and teeth and a lot of pleasure. And we get Zade's perspective again. He knows, quote, how wrong it was of him to take something without consent, but he doesn't regret it, since he knows Addie's the one for him. This whole section really hammers home the dark romance angle. Zade shown rationalizing assault through this absolute, unwavering belief that they're destined, basically rewriting consent to fit his own narrative.
It's attraction and coercion all tangled up. Super disturbing.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then somehow things shift again. After all that, Zade kind of becomes Adeline's confidant. It's bizarre. She actually tells him Gigi's story, pointing out the parallels to their own messed up situation. And Zade's reaction. He finds Gigi's story dramatic. He actually swears to Adeline his plan is marriage and kids, not murder.
Right.
And as proof of his devotion, he warns Max, the cousin, to stay away from Addie and Daya. Plus, he keeps going after the trafficking ring now by getting close to this politician, Mark Williams. It's a very strange form of courtship, I guess.
And the dynamic just keeps twisting. Zade's spying on Adeline, naturally, and sees Mark Williams take a photo of her, which is suspicious. So to protect her, Zade forces her to pretend they're dating. Can you imagine? Playing girlfriend to your stalker. The summary says she's less than enthusiastic, which feels like an understatement.
Yeah.
Right. Then Mark invites them, this fake couple, to some fancy event at his mansion. Adeline agrees, but only because she thinks Mark has info about Gigi's murder. And it's at this party that things click into place for Adeline. She finds out Zade is Z, the vigilante hacker Daya works with, and apparently this knowledge starts to change her feelings for him. She also meets Mark's wife, Claire, who seems abused and gets this huge revelation. The main suspect in Gigi's murder wasn't the stalker, it was Adeline's own great-grandfather. And Mark Williams' dad was the lead investigator back then. So you see how it all connects, right? The personal threat, the stalking, it's tangled up with this massive conspiracy involving trafficking and these old dark family secrets. The summary really weaves it all together.
Okay, so now they have this sort of shared secret mission, taking down the traffickers, solving Gigi's murder, and it actually brings them closer. Zade even starts training her in hand-to-hand combat, which is quite a development from stalker to sensei. Then it's Halloween. Addie and Daya go to this traveling fun fair called Satan's Affair. Festive. While they're there, Adeline bumps into Mark Williams again, and he and his buddies are actually planning to grab both her and Daya right then and there. But guess who's nearby? Zade, of course. Lurking close by, keeping an eye on Addie, as the summary puts it, he steps in. But before he deals with Mark directly, he runs into this other character, Sybil, described as a troubled young woman who apparently enjoys murdering predators. And Zade, in his typical morally gray fashion, basically lets Sybil handle Mark and his friends, gives her the go-ahead.
Which frees him up to find Addie in the House of Mirrors. And this, the summary says, is another major turning point. They have sex for the first time, described as quite the experience. And then Adeline has this moment. She tries to run away into the woods. Zade finds her, and she realizes she's actually fallen for her stalker. It's fascinating how the summary portrays Zade here, still protecting her from other threats, but also enabling Sybil's violence. It makes you ask, what finally pushes Adeline over the edge into actual feelings? The summary seems to suggest it's the sheer danger, maybe his twisted version of protection, just the sheer intensity of it all, somehow that warped the fear into attraction. It's a really dark take on how extreme situations can mess with your head.
It's deeply unsettling, that whole arc. Well, it seems like that's their dynamic now. And weirdly, Zade actually takes a liking to Sybil, the predator murderer, and takes her under his wing. So now they're this dark little vigilante trio. Meanwhile, on the Gigi front, Adeline's mom helps out and they finally figure it out. The killer wasn't Gigi's stalker, Ronaldo. It was Mark Williams' father, the investigator. So with that mystery solved, we see Zade and Adeline actually having coffee, talking about their future, even discussing that awful sacrifice video that kicked off Zade's whole mission. It's almost domestic.
But it's the calm before the storm, the climax, the crescendo happens when Zade finally goes to attend another sacrifice. He's going undercover as an initiate for the society, the big trafficking ring. He actually succeeds, partially. Kills some key members, saves the little girl who was targeted. Big win, right, wrong, it was all a setup, a trap. The real head of the operation is revealed, and Zade instantly knows Adeline is in danger because of his actions. And bam, the cliffhanger. Adeline gets these weird messages, supposedly from Daya. She drives over to Daya's place, gets into a car crash, and is kidnapped. End of summary. It just slams home how connected her personal danger is to Zade's whole crusade. His actions, even the good ones, put her directly in the crosshairs. Leaves you hanging, wondering about her fate, and the real cost of Zade's dark path.
Wow, okay, that was a lot. We went from this creepy stalker setup to a murder mystery tangled up with trafficking rings and these incredibly intense, really blurred relationships. We definitely hit on some shocking moments, some really complex characters. So for you listening, I gotta ask, what part of this story, as we've laid it out, really jumped out at you? What do you even make of these lines between attraction and obsession, danger, and, well, whatever Zade thinks he's offering?
It's a great question, because this story, even though it's fiction, it's extreme fiction, it does poke at these uncomfortable themes, doesn't it? Justice, consent, the dark side of attraction. It really challenges you, I think, to consider boundaries in relationships, obviously, but also the lengths people go to for what they see as right, even if their methods are just fundamentally wrong. It's kind of a stark reminder of how quickly a narrative like Stalker can twist and morph into something way more complicated, way more morally murky, leaves you grappling with some pretty unsettling ideas about human nature, maybe. And the allure of things that are dangerous or forbidden, all seen through the very specific, very intense lens of this particular story.
Definitely some powerful thoughts to chew on there. And yes, this is read it or skip it.